Hey Spoak fam, welcome back to Well Spoken episode 3 here on Spoak TV. Well Spoken is a show hosted by me, hello, here on Spoak and my own channels as well, where we explore interior design with me as a hobbyist, but really for anyone, no matter what level or stage that you're at. We explore different trends, we explore how to use Spoak and all of its incredible tools, and we just walk you through it. If you missed our last episode, it was all about tips for decorating a space from scratch. We walked through 5 different ones that hopefully you found helpful, and now we're gonna put those into practice because it's a new year. And in the spirit of starting fresh for a new year, whether or not you're actually planning on doing that, we thought that maybe that general idea applied to your home, whether you're moving into a new space or planning to, or you're just looking to refresh your existing surroundings, aka let's actually digitally build a room together completely from scratch. And today's subject is a living room. But that's not all. For an extra little challenge and for fun, of course, we're gonna be doing that using entirely products from the Spoak Trade Bundle. So let's back up a little bit. If you're not familiar or just need a little refresher, the Spoak Trade Bundle is basically a power up that you can add on to your existing membership. Basically, Trade Bundle members get exclusive discounts to an entire suite of amazing brands that we at Spoak partner with, like Urban Outfitters, Interior, Define, H&M Home, Backdrop, and my favorite store, Coming Soon, New York, and so many more, plus the list is always growing. Essentially, it's a cheat code for furnishing an entire space at a discount for you or a client. And typically, trade discounts are exclusively available to members of the design trade, so interior designers, etc. But our bundle is extra special because it welcomes all members to reap the benefits. So while I'm working on creating this space and online window shopping in the process, I'm gonna show you how I actually, in practice, approach some of the tips that I talked about in the last episode, and hopefully help you discover some amazing new pieces along the way and amazing brands as well. And after watching this episode, I hope you'll join me in getting super experimental and playing with different designs. This is really the ultimate space and time to experiment with any design choices that you've been daydreaming about or things that you might not normally include in your spaces, any trends you want to try, risks that might seem a little too risky in real life, big furniture purchases you've been debating. We are here and Spoak is here to help you have fun and try those things out. Personally, I just finished decorating my own apartment here in New York, and while it feels amazing and it's been a long time coming, I've also never felt more restless when it comes to decorating, so I'm super excited to jump in and just play around. Let's get our creative juices flowing together and decorate this pretend living room on Spoak. Here we go. Okay, so where to start? Before I did anything, because I knew I would be using several Spoak tools, I went ahead and created a project, which I think is a really good just jumping off point, especially to keep everything organized. And then I hopped into Viz. If you're new to Spoak, Viz has literally every tool you could ever want to help you no matter where you are in the design process. It's mock-ups, it's mood boards, arranging furniture to scale, the list goes on. But right now, inspired by tips 1 and 2 in the previous episode, I wanted to create a mood board, which in Viz is called a vibe board. Here we are in Viz and I'm hopping into the vibe board tool. I'm choosing the vibe board and color palette option because I think it's really helpful to have the color palette as a guide. That's something that I did in creating this space. I just imported a bunch of photos both from Spoak's Thingology feed as well as things that I had screenshotted along the way over time, sort of picking and choosing and deleting and replacing along the way. Not all of the images that I originally had fit in or really needed to be in to get sort of the general look and feel across. I hadn't actually previously made my color palette, and so I took a screenshot of all these photos together, hopped into the color palette tool, and then used the color matching feature to pull colors that were in my entire mood board. I made a few adjustments just based on ones that I knew that I wanted to include in this space, so a sort of burgundy plum shade, some different shades of green, etc. And then I popped them back into the vibe board over here, and here's what we came up with. And I actually really like this. Now that we have our vibe board kind of set to go, now we can move on to sort of starting to curate products. In preparation for filming, I did a preliminary scroll through a few retailers in the Spoak Trade Bundle that I knew that I was already interested in, like Urban Outfitters and Coming Soon, to help guide where I was going to take this design. That was really helpful for me to already have some pieces that I liked that I could use as a jumping off point, which is another tip from our last episode for designing the space. And while I was doing this, I used the Spoak Chrome extension, which was super convenient to save all the items as I went right to my project. And now you can see that they're all right here in my Thingology feed in this specific project. And that leads us right into phase 2. now that we have that sort of jumping off point with those products ready to go, let's get into it. So I'm just doing the 3 walls and a floor just to kind of keep it simple, and I know I'm gonna wanna play with some paint colors. Spoiler alert. So that's gonna make it really easy to incorporate later. In the last episode, I talked about furnishing a space in terms of sort of starting with a few or one key piece and then building off of there. That can really be anything. For me in the past, it's been a piece of art which had a bunch of colors in it, and I used that to guide the process. In this apartment, in my living room, it was a rug. In here, it was my headboard. But in this space, I think I want it to be the couch. I love a sort of like 70s rich brown couch, and this photo from my mood board really inspired that. And so I grabbed this couch from Interior Define, which you can customize to match a different fabric to different couch styles. So I sort of created this one. I wasn't really sure where to go next from here, but I knew that I had grabbed a few different chair options. So I wanted to see what those might look like with the couch, because I was pretty sure this was gonna be the couch I was gonna use. I played with some other ones from Interior Define, but really ended up liking this vintage one from Coming Soon a lot because of the shape, but also just because of the neutral colors in it, and also the other textures that it brought into the space with the, I'm assuming that might be a fiberglass shell, and then the leather seat. And then I'm moving them over to the side instead of working in the center of the living room, because I knew that I wanted to make this space a living and dining space. I don't have that right now, but that would be my perfect world for a next space. So we're daydreaming here, and that's what we're doing. And then I wanted to do rugs. With the way this was already shaping up, I knew that one of these bold pattern ones from Cold Picnic might be a good addition. So I first tried this black and white one with a hint of green, and I did like it, but then I went and tried this sort of chartreuse one with a slightly similar but less geometric pattern, and really ended up liking that. Then I grabbed this coffee table from Coming Soon, which had, you know, some chrome and some wood, which I knew I was going to incorporate elsewhere in the space. Once we had a pretty good foundation for that, I wanted to go look for what was going to be on the other side of the room before I added in like accessories and other complementary sort of pieces. I thought about potentially putting a sideboard on that back wall, or like a credenza. So I went to go find that, as well as a potential dining table. I popped on to Urban Outfitters and France and Son. I ended up finding this really beautiful and very, very expensive credenza on France and Son, which I love. It's got such a beautiful like wood design. And then I started bringing some dining tables into the mix. I tried a bunch of different ones, but because I ended up going with a credenza that had wood in it, I really wanted to do something that wasn't wood, and a lot of the dining tables I had picked were wood. So I went back to the drawing board there, and then sort of got a little distracted and moved over to the other side of the room. Decided to add this chrome etagere, and I'm using the perspective tools to manipulate that into looking slightly more to scale and to perspective. Again, you can see me trying to find a dining table. I was really struggling with this. I ended up finding this white table, which had a nice sort of thick but oval base, and then an oval top as well. Now that I had a basic foundation of the room, I decided to go play with some paint colors. As of pretty recently, I think, Spoak brought Backdrop, which is a DTC paint company, into the trade bundle, so that's very exciting. But even more exciting is that all of the colors are pre-uploaded into Spoak. So when you're playing with the shapes tools, which is what the walls are made of, you can actually go through Backdrop's entire color palette and add those colors to your vizies. As you can see, I'm playing around here. I knew I wanted the walls to just be white, and then I decided to add some color to the ceiling. Now, in the spirit of like taking risks that we might not take in person, this is something I definitely want to do in person and have been thinking about for a while, but painting a ceiling I think is like a really unexpected way of like adding in some fun and some color into a space without having to paint the actual walls. I think it makes it feel super, super elevated and isn't like an everyday choice that you would see. I knew I wanted to use this colored lobby scene, which was a sort of plum that I have actually been eyeing personally for a while. You can also see that I ended up finding some dining chairs. These are from Urban Outfitters, but very like vintage inspired and vintage looking. And now, because we're in a pretty good spot with the majority of the furniture, now I'm gonna add on sort of the accessories in the space and finish styling it out. First, I'm gonna do lighting. And I ended up finding this lantern. Urban was a popular destination for my lights because I also grabbed the sconces. I'm doing art and mirrors. There are some really great art resources in the trade bundle. Took a good browse through a few of those. I was looking on Spacey, I was looking on Drool, I was looking on ArtStar. I ended up finding one that fit that on ArtStar that I think is really cool. It kind of brings in some new shades into the space as well, but without being like clashing or overwhelming. And then just finishing it out with some more accessories. I added a mirror above the credenza. I wanted one that was frameless. I found that on Interior Define. And then I did all of the smaller accessories. I knew that I wanted to visit Berthe and H&M Home for this stuff specifically. I popped a few pillows in. I added some bowls to make it look like there was stuff on the table, and then a vessel with some very pretty florals in it. My final step, I felt like it was sort of missing something still, and so I hopped back into H&M's website and ended up just deciding to do some curtains that were like a beige linen. Added some nice texture and also just some nice like depth. So that is our finished product, and I'm honestly so happy with how it came out. I think it like really came together, and I was like, oh, should I make my next apartment look like this? And all the different brands in the bundle and like what they sell just checked every box so perfectly. In a budgetless world, this would be a really fun space to live in. But the last thing I want to touch on in this video is just tips 4 and 5 from episode 2, which were talking about budgeting and phasing things out. Again, like I just said, in a budgetless world, this could happen like immediately like this, but in real life, obviously not. So this is just a theoretical example, but something like this is nice to have so that you can plan it all out and then also plan when you're gonna make your purchases. If you're looking for some help with budgeting, Spoak has a really great budget template that you can use for your own resource. But I think we're good to go here, and that is what we have for you in today's episode. If you want to get in on the fun here, I am formally challenging you to do the same thing I just did and create a room using exclusively different brands from the trade bundle. If you do end up doing that, just be sure to tag me and Spoak. We would love to see. And if you want to get in on any more challenges, I highly recommend you join in on the daily Spoak Play Fun. Every day on Spoak, both in the platform and on Instagram, you will see the prompt for the challenge of the day. And if you ever get stuck or you're looking for people to talk anything through with or get inspiration from, then you can also join the community on Slack. Thank you so much for watching episode 3 of Well Spoken. We will see you on the next one, and go have fun with designing your next space. All right, bye guys.